Welcome today to my little podcast here. I brought in one of my favorite guests today. This is going to be with my manager, Karin Hendricks. She's the associate broker and the manager for Signature Premier, Instatalk at Miller Place. If you're an agent and you're thinking about changing, you should definitely be talking to Karin. You know, I wanted to talk to you a little bit today and, kind of let everybody get to know you a little bit. So, I know that you grew up in Freeport, right?
Freeport, yeah.
Freeport. So, and then eventually you made it out to Suffolk County.
I did.
What, obviously you're a realtor, you're a associate broker, you're the manager, both with Signature Premier. How did you get here? Where did you start your career? You came out of school and you went right into real estate, or you did something else?
I did something else.
What were you doing?
So I was always in sales,
Yeah.
Cosmetic sales.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And I did that out of college. I actually did it while I was in high school, and then after college, I came back. I worked for Elizabeth Arden, Chanel, like different cosmetic companies.
I had interviewed Jennifer O'Brien,
Yes.
who also was with, did you ever cross paths at that time, or two different time periods?
Two different time periods.
Very interesting.
I'd rather be in her time period than mine, but okay.
So you were corporate for those guys doing sales then?
Yeah, I worked for somebody that had 7 high-end pharmacies.
Oh.
And I used to do the buying and the selling for all of them.
Oh, okay.
And it was mostly high-end cosmetics and gifts, and so I started there, and I always liked sales. I always liked being around people.
Were you out on the road, like trying to
In between
hustle?
stores, I was out on the road, yeah.
Yeah. So how long did you do that?
Probably about 7 or 8 years. And then I had children.
Yep.
And when I was looking for a home, I had 2 little boys at the time, and the real estate agents that I was working with were just so disorganized. They were just always missing appointments. I just couldn't believe what I was facing trying to find a home.
Sure.
So I thought to myself, boy, with a little bit of service, this could be a job. And, no disrespect to them, but I was just like amazed how hard it was to nail them down. And, some of them would be, at that time, they drove you around in their car. And they would have papers flying everywhere. They were answering the phone all the time. It was just hectic. So fast forward 3 kids later,
Yeah.
My daughter was about 2. And I decided to get my license.
Was the flexibility a factor for you too then with the children, being able to have your own schedule, kind of?
It started out like that, but for me, luckily, I sold a house my first week.
Wow.
And it just took off for me. And then I always said I wanted to work the career around my children, and all of a sudden I started to be working my children around the career. It was kind of rough, but it's 24/7 business a lot, and but I loved what I was doing. I enjoyed it, and it just worked.
So I know you as somebody who works all the time. And I always tell you, take a break, take the day off, shut your phone down. But I'm sensing there's another part of you that's super competitive and loves getting, and you challenge yourself. And I feel like that's really what your drive is, not just for the sake of working, but you love to get the next one.
Yeah, I do. Real estate was great for me. I had a great run. I made more money than I ever dreamed of, and I was just, although we could dream for more, but it was just really good to me. I mean, I was good to it, and it was good to me. And I just learned that, if you did the right things, things would come your way. And, so I'm a big advocate for it. I think it's a really important piece to a transaction.
Right.
I think a lot of people think you go get your license, I'm gonna put a sign in the front lawn, and I'm gonna wait for the phone to ring. And it's just so much more than that.
But you're talking about relationship building, being ethical, following through. You're just talking about being a good human, and it comes back to you.
It's really the truth. You know, I never really thought about the money. I thought I just kept moving. Yeah. And people would say to me, oh, you must be making so much money, or how many houses are you selling? And truthfully, I wasn't really paying attention to that. I should have. But, I learned over time, right. And I always tell the agents I work with today that I try to help them do all the things that I didn't get to do because I had to learn as I tripped over it. And it's a great career, but you have to be focused on point. You have to have a profit and loss. You have to understand, just because you're getting these big checks, it's not all yours.
Right.
Everybody gets a piece, and then you have to be able to budget and continue on.
Yeah, so. Matt, you don't know when your next paycheck's coming.
Right.
Did you work for multiple brokers, or did you go right to work for one and stay there for a long time?
Yes, I did. So I actually got into a larger company and stayed there for 24 years.
Okay.
And I had a great run. It was a good company. At the time, it was fashionable to be there.
Yeah.
And I went to a career night. That's what they had, a career night.
Oh.
And I went, and I just joined, and it worked.
Well, that's where we met.
Yes.
We met there, and then eventually we both ended up at Signature Premier together,
Yes.
which is great. So I know you had your family you raised first in Smithtown, then eventually in Setauket, and
Right.
that's how I think you were running a Smithtown office then. Now we're all in Setauket and Miller Place and whatnot.
Yes.
But while you were there for all those years, you weren't just a sales agent. You kind of grew yourself a little bit.
Right.
But I know that you have history of being a top performer.
Yes.
Right, so congratulations to you.
Thank you.
I'm sure it's something you're very proud of. How long were you a top performer? How many times? Was it consistent?
It was consistent, yeah.
Good.
I mean, I worked my way up to it. And back then, you started out at a certain split, and the only way you got a bigger split,
Yeah.
you just did more deals.
Right.
So I never would get myself rolled back because I just wouldn't. And it was just a different model.
I had, this is my second career. Everybody knows.
Right.
I did it a long time in hospitality. And while I enjoyed that, I really like real estate. But one of the things I kind of regret is that I didn't get in when my children were young. I was on the soccer field and I had access to a lot of people.
Right.
Instead I went into a career where I had my head down and I didn't have access to a lot of people. I wasn't never off when everybody else was off. And so now in my real estate world, I'm reestablishing relationships all over the place. So it's a huge advantage when you get in with the young family.
It is, and it's important, the PTA and just whatever, but I will say this, I never wanted to be seen as through my children's parents, friends, as, oh, I'm looking for your business.
Yeah.
I always wanted to be seen as the mom of my children.
Sure.
So I really didn't promote myself, believe it or not, that much through that venue, but I think showing up always dressed, and always, no matter what event I was at, PTA meeting, or I was always in a suit because I always usually came from showing, came from a house, and I think eventually people just knew what I did.
It becomes organic.
And then, I was always advertising in the local papers, and so it was a really, really good run. I had, great clients there, and I still keep in touch with many of them, know a lot of agents in the area. And then moving to Signature over to Miller Place, I had no idea what to do with Miller Place because for me it was so far, and I was like, what do you do out here? And the first 3 weeks I was stirring around saying, uh-oh, and now it's just been an amazing experience. It's thriving. I actually probably think if I moved, I'd move to Bating Hollow.
Well, people probably don't realize Eastern Suffolk County is a lot more population, a lot more dense than it used to be.
Yeah.
It's not just farmland anymore.
I know.
There's plenty of people out there.
It really was a nice surprise, but it took me a while to get used to it. But now that I've gotten used to it, it just doesn't seem so far anymore.
So now you're 25 years with the first company, 24 years.
24.
How long in before you decided to put on your manager hat?
So I was a top agent for quite a few years, and I think when at my 18th or 19th year being an agent, I'm in at 27, they approached me to be a manager, but I was doing so well in real estate, and I wasn't really ready to go that route, but they put me through the management leadership program early on.
Right.
And I figured, let me just take it. You never know if when I get older, maybe I'll want to do this. And then my manager that was there at the time, out of nowhere, decided to retire. So they asked me to do it. I said, no, not yet. I'm not ready. And then the person they hired never showed up for the job.
Okay.
She ended up being interviewed by 2 different companies and told my old company she was taking the job and then doesn't do it.
Right.
So my president at that time said to me, it's a sign. And he said, oh, my mother, she's Italian, her name is Conchetta, whatever he said, and if she was around right now, she'd tell you. So I said, okay. Well, it didn't take much to convince me.
It's a big leap. People think management, it's cool, it's sexy. It's very difficult because it's like working a puppet. You are not directly now impacting the result. You have to work and get other people to do certain things to be able to get that result. And then it becomes a real teaching, a real leadership, a real guidance thing. So were you able to fall into that pretty quick, or did it take a little while?
It took a little while because being the top agent in the office that I worked in and then becoming the manager there, it was a hard transition at first for me and for my agents. But it turned out to be an amazing experience. I had the #1 office at the time, and I had so many different agents, age-wise. I had as young as 21 and as old as 96, and everybody was just great together.
96.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Not really. I can barely hear things now.
And you know what? She was awesome. So, but anyway, it was a great experience, had a great run, but, then I switched over to Signature about 2 years ago, and it's a great company. They're really, it's a different vibe totally.
Yeah.
And it's been good. It's been a great experience for me. I know a lot of the agents that I brought over with me have loved it here. Yeah. And I tell everybody it's like, Disneyland for agents. They just help you with everything.
I followed your lead because I started in corporate environment, which is kind of really a really good thing when you're first starting out. You have a lot of support, a lot of training, a lot of good stuff. And then, things evolve. And what's really great about Signature is, we're the biggest broker now on Long Island. I think we have 20 offices, is that right? 18?
I think more than that, 22.
22 offices. We got Seacliff about to open. Yeah. But what really makes this company really exciting to work for is the two owners are visible. Right. They're in front of everybody. One's a builder, one's a broker, right? And they're visible, they're friendly with people, and they can do a lot of things that the corporate companies can't do. Right. We have events all the time, we have mixers. It's just a really very thoughtful process toward agents. And I think it's that allows the company to continue to recruit and be the #1, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, I've been recruited by a lot of companies before, and there's really, they offer so much for agents here. Just the marketing alone and the support is just something and that's what you need in sales. I mean, sales is you have to be self-motivated. You have to get up every day with a plan.
Yeah.
And if you have somebody poking you or saying, hey, how's it going? That allows me to happen with everybody. Today I spent the day just going through all the inventory in the office, reaching out to every agent, how's it going? Maybe it's a time for a price reduction. And it's just that little piece, because when I was a top agent, one of the things that I knew was everybody thought I didn't need anything. Because, she's got all this business. Look at her, she doesn't need anything. And meanwhile, I was drowning and nobody could help me. And I tried to start a team. It wasn't fashionable at the time. And it just was so much work. So I kind of got rid of that and realized I'm just better off being on my own. But now it just seems like with all the digital marketing that there is and all the opportunities that are out there and all the different lead generators, I mean, real estate's explosive. I mean, you can do whatever you want.
It is such a different world. I remember when I bought my house, we got the big book to take home and look at. Yeah. And, you did sit in the car with the agent. And now we're a digital world. It's much smaller. People don't work only one neighborhood. You can't anymore. Right. You really need to go wherever the business is. So it is very different. But to your point about social media and digital world, there's just so much noise out there. And all of us agents, excuse me, feel that we need to have a presence, otherwise we're lost.
Right.
We're lost in it. Some agents are great at it. Some agents aren't. I'm not that great at it. I'm getting more comfortable at it, but and I have some help because on my own, it's not natural for me, as I've told you before, but you do have to have some presence out there, otherwise it's non-existent. And you made a good point a minute ago too about being self-motivated. Mm-hmm. Sounds great to work for yourself, wake up when you want, do whatever you want, take the day off when you want, but you also wake up thinking sometimes, I don't know where I'm going today, and you need someone to help push that. And that's what, I think people rely on with you to check in and you'll slap that off your face. Let's move on. Forget about that. Let's go to the next. What are you doing about it? And, having accountability partners when you work for yourself is important, whether it's a manager or somebody else on the team or somebody else in the office. And again, I think with Signature, we have such great people around us that everybody feels comfortable.
And everybody shares. Yeah, everybody shares. Everybody learns from each other. Yeah. It's just really, really nice. And, I tell everybody all the time, you have to have a plan and you have to execute that plan. But a lot of people talk about what they want to do or how they're going to do it, when in fact, just do it.
Yeah.
Because by the time you get it perfect, that house is already
gone
to somebody else.
I know.
So it's just really, not... I have a lot of agents that I'll call about a listing and I'll say, I think the house could use a price reduction. I'm going to do it in a week. I'm going to do it next week. And every time that time passes, you're losing momentum in that listing. Right. But it's hard for me sometimes. They're all independent contractors. They can all, it's their business. But at the same time, I'm watching it saying, oh, come on, there's money in the bank for everybody, the homeowner included. Let's just get this moving. But it takes a little bit for people to gain trust with me, and then I think once they do, we make a great team in partnership with most.
For sure. I want to take a break and give you a chance to sip some of that tea over there. And we'll come right back and finish up the conversation with Karin Hendricks. All right, welcome back. This afternoon, we're sitting with Karin Hendricks. She's my manager. She's the associate broker at Signature Premier Properties. I want to remind you that the full-length interview we're having today, or podcast, will be available on my YouTube channel. Check us out on Instagram as well. You'll see snippets of this come up, and look forward to it. So, Karin, let's pick up where we left off before. I want to start talking about things that are going on now in the marketplace. We're at the beginning of 2023. The first 2-3 quarters of 2022 were unbelievable in the real estate world for sellers, right? And that was going on for, 4 years?
Pretty much.
Maybe even a little longer. I mean, it was a really good market for sellers before the pandemic. The 2 years that we were shut down and the whole pandemic, it just really propelled it forward. But now things are starting to change a little bit, right, in the marketplace?
They are. I think the biggest change is mindset, because it was a seller's market before, but the buyers also benefited because the interest rates were so low.
Right.
Now, it's still kind of a seller's market, but the interest rates are higher. We're still so low in inventory, and there's still so many buyers. We just haven't really seen a slowdown in buyers wanting to purchase.
Yeah.
They're finding a way.
Yeah.
I mean, even though rates are high, they're still historically low compared to all the years that they have been a lot higher.
That's right.
So the buying power is less, and the price point is getting corrected to a degree, but I think what we're seeing right now is very transitional. We have agents not sure how to price homes, because if we're comparing to what somebody got in 21 or 20 or 22 to what they want now, it's not always working out.
Right.
And then we've got buyers who think the market's dropping, and so they want to do these lowball offers, but we're not there yet, so it's not happening.
Well, I want to comment on that point. You always say, real estate's local. It's hyper-local.
Right.
And I always come into the office and say, what I saw in the news last night, I read it in the paper, and they're saying that the market is crashing, but it's really kind of false. It's a very national, broad statement that's being put out in the media, but it's not really in our little bubble.
No.
We're in the New York metropolitan area. We're the suburbs of New York. And in itself, it's already a different market, because people are always going to be in New York, and they're always going to end up commuting, and we're always going to be protected in that way. But the truth is, even though the market is changing, we still are a seller's market because our inventory is low. And when we say that, we're saying less than 6 months inventory. What are we sitting on, 2.3 months right now, I think is what the most recent thing was that we saw?
I mean, if you watch the market, you'll see, west to east. West is starting to build their inventory a little bit.
Yeah.
So it'll probably come this way.
Yeah.
But again, right now it's January and the holidays hit. And so it's a transitional time to sell anyway.
Yeah.
But I am seeing more listings coming out every single day, but I see them getting scooped up pretty quickly.
Right, because the serious buyers are still out there,
They're
right?
still out there. We still have enough buyers to make it work. And then the people that are overpricing their homes because they think they should get what their neighbor got 2 years ago with an interest rate that was 3%, and the market was just so different, until they start to see. I mean, we had one house in our office in Miller Place, I think it had 90 showings before it got an offer. But it tells you 90 people were interested, but they weren't interested at the price it was.
Right.
Finally, when we brought it to the right price, we got that price.
Right.
So there's not a lot of negotiating going on. People don't want to negotiate a lot. And sellers have to try to understand to price it on point versus, I talked to a seller today, I think they're probably $100,000 more than they should be. And his answer was, let them make an offer. But that's not what people do anymore.
No.
They just want to know. They don't want to go back and forth 10 times. They just want to come in and get it.
Well, I often remind the seller, you're not the one setting the price. The market, the buyer's going to determine the price.
Right.
You can put whatever number you want on that house, but when someone pulls the trigger to buy that house, they determined what the price was to pull the trigger, right?
Yep.
So, and we are still seeing competition with offers. We're just not seeing 15, 20 offers on a house. Would that be an accurate statement?
We're not seeing 15 or 20, but we're seeing at least 1 or 2, if not 5.
3 or 5, right?
Yeah, and it's still pretty close. If the house is priced correctly, it's still at full price. We still have good, programs out there with, 20% down. So right now, it's still a good time if you want to sell, and if you want to buy, it's great. What will happen in May or June, I have no idea, but I think we're pretty stable right now.
Well, I mean, we've been seeing lots of information that the interest rate by the end of the first quarter should kind of be in a more normal place.
Right.
You know, I'm hearing from my mortgage brokers that they think it's going to end up leveling out around 5.5%
True.
by the end of the first quarter, which is quite a good rate, especially if you look over the decades, over the last 4 or 5 decades.
Right.
It's crazy. Right. So is it still in January? Should I wait to put my house on the market until the spring or the summer? Do I want to get out there now? You know, how do you coach agents, people do that?
So what I always tell everybody is when you want to sell your house is when you should sell your house. If you try to time it to the perfect time, it'll never be perfect. So, I mean, I have sellers now that probably are overpriced, and if I try to approach them for a price reduction, they'll say, I'm not in a rush. And I say, okay, well, right now you own the market because there's no inventory. Your house is beautiful. It should be able to sell, but we're not getting enough eyes on it. We need to get more eyes on it. And they're like, well, I'll lower it in March. Well, in March, we could have 50 more houses. We don't know. So I always tell everybody, real estate is what we know today. You know, if I go get your listing and 15 more houses come out tomorrow right around the corner from you, now we've got 15 more competitive homes. So I always say, the only time to sell your home is when you really want to sell it. You don't want to test the market. You don't want to try the market. You want to be in the market. And, you know, the conversation I had with the person today who didn't want to lower their price until March, I said, but then you're not in this market. You're on the market, but you're not in the market because you're missing, and, you know, my agent's doing numerous open houses. So if we're doing all the things that are supposed to help you sell your home and it's not happening, then, you know, no amount of marketing will overcome the wrong price.
Right.
So that's my thing. You know, I don't believe in putting a house on the market if you're just trying because, I don't know.
You made me think of something. If I go on a listing appointment, I do a presentation, we come up with a price today, and then they say, all right, well, I'll let you know when I'm ready. And you bring me back 3 months out, 6 months out, a year. I have people that keep putting it off till they retire. It could be 2 years. When I come back in, we're not talking about the same price. We're starting all over again because it's very, very
it's time.
Fluid.
Yeah.
It's moving all the time.
Yeah.
Moving all the time. Karin, what are some of the responsibilities that a manager has in real estate? I mean, there are competing managers that get to list houses and stuff, and there are managers that only develop their teams, and I think you're one that's more focused on developing your team, but what are the responsibilities you have?
Well, it's helping agents get business and, you know, kind of coaching them to stay active in the market and do the things that they need to do every day to bring in listings and have buyers, you know, follow up, looking at what they did for the week or the day or whatever and seeing what that day brought to them. And if it didn't bring anything, what can we do differently? So I'm constantly checking the systems with them because what I don't like to see is when I have people in the office every day and I don't see anything ever, or for a month or two. I want their time to count. Sure. So I'll say to them, you know, you've been here 5 days this week. Where are we? What do we do? Right. And then we kind of reevaluate and we look because it's very easy to fall out of this business because nobody's telling you every day what to do. You know, at a regular job, maybe you go in and you know you have these 12 tasks to finish, and then you go home and you feel good because you finished those tasks. But here, if you sit in an office for 8 hours or 10 hours or whatever you do and you walk away with nothing and 5 days in a row it's nothing, it starts to feel like, what am I doing? And then again, it's mindset. Your head could start talking to you and saying, maybe this isn't for me, right. Maybe, you know, and it's for you if you want it to be. There's always a way to make business in real estate. There's so many ways. That's what I love about it. It's like you could work any angle you want, whatever your niche is, you could just follow it. But I find that a lot of the agents are too all over the place because we're a good run for other people. They could sell us everything. How many people want to sell lead gen? How many people want to sell you all these podcasts?
Right, yeah.
Look at this, watch that, coach here, coach there. Yeah. And I have a lot of agents that buy everything because they think that's what's going to make them money. But truthfully, the only thing that's going to make you money is just getting in.
Well, the truth is, you know, I'm one of those people that always catches myself doing busy work and saying, hold on. are the tasks that I'm doing right now producing a result?
Right.
Or am I walking out thinking I had a busy day today because I was doing tasks? They're not the same thing. Right. And you know, for you as a manager, as a teacher, as a coach, you're really kind of cultivating every day. You're watering the seeds a little bit, and every day everybody gets a little stronger. And quite frankly, Karin, you have your fingerprints all over some of the busiest agents on Long Island.
I do.
You know, some of the people that are most well known in Suffolk County and maybe even in Nassau County, they were raised in your little den. So you taught all the good skills. Besides cultivating and teaching, what kinds of things does the company expect? I know you've seen recruiting a lot, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, you want to always build your office. You always want to surround yourself with good, successful people. And like I said, Signature has a lot to offer their agents, and real estate is hard, so you have to work a lot outside of yourself. And at Signature, they have so many hands-on for you. You can reach out, like I said, to marketing. They have something called Signature Social. You can post anything you want to the entire company. Hey, I have a buyer looking for a house, or, you know, just we're constantly filtering information through each other, and that's really how you grow. So, you know, one of the things I do is recruit. Like I said, I watch the inventory. I help agents prepare for listings. I help agents prepare for cold calls. Again, cold calling's not allowed right now, but you know, calling around a listing, or say you have an open house, we kind of set up, try to make that house work for you. Knock on the doors next door, let everybody know you're having an open house, you know, send out a little bit of a mailing with an invitation. So I try to help them get creative on how to make this listing help you get 2 or 3 more.
It's really helpful too, because very often we have our head down, we're in a box, we're thinking, and we can't see outside about it. And you're one step back, and you're able to kind of a more high level look at it and go, did you consider looking at it this way? Did you consider this? What about putting this twist on your marketing? But for a quick pitch for Signature does a lot for the agents that a lot of brokers don't do. You know, a lot of brokers, they have our hands in our pocket for everything. They're charging for us. Signature provides a lot of service. The marketing team alone is one of the best features Signature has for us. And
they really want their agents to be happy.
Yeah.
You know, they really do.
Yeah.
So it's been a good experience, and a lot more people are coming. I mean, I think you've seen the company's growing in leaps and bounds. They're opening offices everywhere, and I'm just, you know, glad to be a part of it.
Well, maybe someone will see this interview we're doing today, and they'll say, oh, you know, maybe a recruiting interview. I might want to reach out to Karin Hendricks to find out more. But Karin does have quite a history of developing people and making them successful. What else would you want people to know about real estate as a general business, or about what we do? Anything else you would want to add to that?
Well, I think it's really important to know, you know, everything you can about your product. And when you can speak from knowledge, it's really what gives you the confidence to move forward. Mm-hmm. I tell a lot of new agents to study the inventory, you know, learn your MLS, do some drive-bys, go to open houses. I mean, one of the first things I do when a new agent starts with us is I give them a copy of our office inventory. And I tell them to go on MLS, look, you know, start to learn how to read a listing, put in the multiple listing number, go to the bottom, see who the agent is, click on their face, see who they are, this is who you work with. And, you know, maybe go to the open house. It's like, learn the inventory. This way, you get to be, you know, somebody, if you're in the grocery store or dropping your child off somewhere, and they know you're in real estate, and they ask you a question because you've studied the market, especially where you live or where you're going to sell, you should know every single thing about everything going on.
That's a good point. You know, when we talk about the MLS, that means all of us brokers and agents are sharing with each other to open up. So I'm very often partnering with an agent on a transaction. They might be the seller, I might be the buyer, vice versa. But we end up having, at some point, once we're in contract, we become partners, even though we're from different companies.
Right.
And there are some fantastic agents out there that are really great to partner with. And so I would just say, for people who are looking to hire a listing agent or a buyer's representative, to interview people and find out who you like and who you feel comfortable with, and trust them. If they tell you, we need to price it here, kind of trust that a little bit, because a lot of folks, like you said, they're kind of a little greedy right now, coming off that windfall of a market. They want this number, but maybe the way to get there isn't by posting that high. Right. Maybe the way to get there is by being fair market value and letting the market determine how the price.
Like I said, knowledge is so plentiful right now. You can Google anything and find anything. Yeah. So, you know, we have to be spot on with our pricing and what we're offering to the buying public, and just, we have to know our facts. We have to know what the COs are on the house. So basically, I try to work with agents from the very beginning on learning and knowing as much as you can about what you're selling. And if you're selling nothing right now, then learn everything you can about the marketplace that you want to be in.
Let's make one last point. Very often we see houses being sold by the homeowner.
Right.
A for sale by owner. We call them FSBOs as an acronym. Most of those people that try selling their house on their own, they end up hiring an agent at some point, don't they?
They do.
Why is it a bad idea for someone to try to sell their house? First of all, people selling their house on their own because they think they're saving money, right? Because they don't have to pay a brokerage fee, right? But are they really saving money?
No, and it's funny, I sold my own personal home. And when I was going to put my home on the market, I had a price in mind for it. And I was looking at it from me living in it for 25 years, knowing what it needed, knowing what bothered me about it. I thought the kitchen was older. And when I called my, peers of my agents, they were like, "You're out of your mind. Your house is fine." And I actually ended up selling my house for more than I probably would have listed it for myself because it was too personal to me.
Sure.
And I think what homeowners do is it's too personal to them, and either they inflate the price to the point of no return because they have a statue in there that they brought back from Italy or wherever. You know how they do it, and then they're so proud of it and they think it's going to mean that much to somebody else, but it doesn't. And so I think selling your house on your own, you take away the ability to people to be objective. You usually gain more money because the person that you hire that's the professional knows how to market it better, knows how to stage it, how, what they should do, what they shouldn't do. I mean, a lot of people, I was with somebody and they told me they wanted to put $10,000 into their home because they thought their home was worth $800,000 and the numbers were not there. And I said, that $10,000 would be a waste, don't even. Yeah. This is what the numbers are showing. So we are, such a wealth of knowledge. We spend our time doing this and only this. They're just selling one personal piece of property that they have a relationship with, right? So either they love it or they hate it, or they're in between and they don't price it accordingly.
You're touching on the emotional part. You're touching on the pricing point. What about all the other stuff that comes after that? What about all the legal stuff? What about vetting people out? People don't understand how difficult it is to be a licensed sales agent. You're not just putting a house up and running to the bank with a big sack of money.
Right.
There's a time period, and there's a lot of steps that happen in that time period. And even when we put everything in place, and everything looks golden, things could still go wrong. Right. And I can only imagine when people try to sell a house on their own, they don't see this stuff coming. They're not prepared. So maybe you put your house on the market, maybe you got the number you had in your head on your own, but maybe you also didn't get a lot more offers because you didn't open it up to more people. Like when we open it up to the MLS, we're opening up to every associate broker there is.
Well, the more eyes you get on your home, the more opportunity.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing is they miss that opportunity. And I was with somebody today, said he didn't care. But he also told me he had 3 offers on his house that fell through. And a lot of times I find that buyers like to go to for sale by owners just to kind of test the market and see what's out there, but they don't actually buy them.
Sure.
Because they don't know what they're getting. Why would you want to buy a one and done house when you haven't done your homework, research, and know what the area is even selling for or what this house looks like compared to another house? I mean, real estate agents are such a wealth of knowledge and education, and it's the biggest asset of your life. So why would you want to lose money and why would you want to pay more?
Well, the other side to that too is if I'm a buyer and I know you're selling that house without an agent, I know you're not paying an agency fee, right? So I'm not going to give you the same price as your neighbor who's working with an agent. Right. I'm gonna take that off the top right up. So it doesn't work out the way you think it's going to work out.
Yeah. I always say the offer is usually the easy part. It's keeping it together that the agent's expertise comes in.
Ain't that the truth?
Yep. So, I mean, we could do a whole class on sell by owners and what people make mistakes with. But sometimes you just can't talk to people. They think they know it, and that's all they want to do. And as you do your best to try to help people. And that's really, I mean, sometimes I look at people trying to sell their home for 3 months, and I'm like, why? 3 months? You've already wasted 3 months.
And again, on your own, you really want to open the door. You really want to listen to people walk through your house and critique your house. Oh, this needs to get changed. Oh, I don't like the kitchen. The bathrooms are terrible. You want to listen to that?
No.
As a homeowner, you should leave and go to Starbucks and get a cup of coffee and let me deal with all that. And I'll bring you the transaction when it's ready, because that's it's emotional.
It is very emotional. Yep.
Well, this has been great talking with you today, Karin. I appreciate you coming down and spending a few minutes. So maybe I got you out of it for a few minutes today to relax with me here.
Yeah, no, it's fun.
It's Karin Hendricks. She's the associate broker and the manager for Signature Premier in Setauket and Miller Place. If you're an agent you're thinking about changing, you should definitely be talking to Karin. The full-length interview will be posted on my YouTube channel. Check us out at Instagram, and we'll have some of Karin's information posted as well so you can reach her directly. Thank you so much.
Thank you.